Hey everybody, welcome back to my homestead. My name is Emily, and this is week 2 of the Three Rivers Challenge, a pantry challenge where my family is going to not go to the grocery store for the months of January and February. And our family specific rules that we are going to allow the purchase of milk. Other than that, we're eating out of the stores we have down here in the pantry, our freezers, and up in the upstairs fridge and pantry. So I'm going to give you a little tour today of what we've got going on here. It's a little bit of a disaster zone down here, more of a construction zone really. We have construction going on. So there's building materials all over the place. There's even a door. And just, stuff everywhere. We had to take down the shelves that those games are on, so they're just piled up on the ground. But that's why I was reluctant to do this tour, just because it's a little hard. I have to go around all this stuff to get to the shelves. But we'll go ahead and start up here in the front in these totes. This first one is full of all kinds of different pastas. And the green one has baking stuff. There's baking soda, baking powder, powdered sugar, marshmallows, brown sugar, and powdered milk. This one below is full of kids' snacks that I like to eat. There's like peanut butter crackers, goldfish crackers, Pop-Tarts, popcorn, and I think some cookies. And then this one here has a couple things that only I eat. It's some puffed kamut cereal and some cassava tortilla chips. It's a corn-free option because I do not eat corn. It's also hard to find cereals without corn or barley, which are two things that I can't eat. And so that cereal is something that I get into, and I buy it in bulk. So both of those things I buy online and have them shipped. So I buy a large quantity, and then they go in a storage box, just in case we ever get mice in here. This cane sugar was kind of an overbuy on accident. I have these containers back here that have I have one 5-gallon bucket with sugar, 3 with all-purpose flour, 2 with white rice, which one of them is currently empty, and there's pinto beans in the back. That's the only thing I regret stocking up on, is because we just really don't go through pinto beans that much, and I was defaulted to just buying them already canned. So I'm going to try to use up all the ones that we have and then start canning up those. But the sugar, I'd gone to Sam's Club and I stocked up on my flour and sugar and all that stuff, and I got 25-pound bags of flour, and that about fills a container. Well, I got a smaller package of sugar and didn't even think about it, that wouldn't fill the container, and so it was only less than halfway full. So the next time I was near a Sam's Club, I bought 2 bags, thinking I needed to buy double, but I bought a bigger bag also. So then I put one in there, and then there's one sitting over here that hopefully doesn't get eaten a hole in it by a pest. But it's got trash bags. I don't know how we're doing on the flour. Okay, yeah, this one's almost empty of flour, and the other 2 are full because I just recently stocked up on those. And this is new addition to my pantry is water. We live on a well here, and that's new for us. Previously, we lived with city water, and we never had to worry about running out of water if the power went out. But here, since we're on the well, that's dependent on the electricity to work and to pump the water up to us. So we lost power for about 6 hours during a storm in the fall, and I was like, oh, we need to have drinking water on hand in case we lose power again. So that has been added to the list, and all the kids are like, why are you buying water? Because they're not used to that either. One more tote over here with some stuff in it. This has oatmeal, cornmeal, and sushi rice. The cornmeal, yeah, I can't eat corn, but I still make cornbread for my kids every once in a while because they can eat it. They like it. Paper plates, parchment paper, foil, cling wrap, wax paper, plastic bags of different sizes. I have been trying to wash and reuse as many of the plastic bags as I can. I don't really do it with the sandwich bags because they're just so flimsy and easily torn up. And this next shelf up here, I have a bunch of squashes and pumpkins. Behind the pumpkins is some green tomato salsa verde I made a couple years ago. I've been trying to go through that by thinking of recipes to put it in. I have a couple of these pie pumpkins that I need to use real quick. This is a Dickinson pumpkin that was given to me by my sister. That's from her garden. This cushaw is also from her garden, and so is this tramezzino or zucchini rampicante, I think. I don't know how to pronounce it. Those are all from my sister's garden. The two pie pumpkins were given to us. And then I've got 2 acorn squash, a delicata squash, and 2 sweet dumpling squashes. Those I bought at the store when they were on sale in the fall. We've eaten one of the delicatas and it was really good. I also have seeds for this kind, so I wanted to try it since I grew it once, but squash bugs got to it and that didn't go so well. Here is a whole bunch of cowboy candy. We really liked it when I made it last year, so I made twice as much this year, at least. I might have made more than twice as much. It's really good. And I gifted some to people over Christmas. And here are condiments. Got ketchup that my father-in-law gave to me. His sister, so my husband's aunt, made this ketchup. And so he gifted it to me because, knows that I can't eat a lot of ketchups from the store because a lot of them have corn syrup in it. But this is one that I buy, and I already had this when he gave me this. But I think I'll skip this one and eat that one next. Back here is some Worcestershire sauce. If you watched my last year's Pantry Challenge videos, I made some Worcestershire sauce, variation of a Worcestershire sauce, to use because the one that at the Aldi that I shop at has corn in it, cornstarch or maltodextrin, something like that. And so I was just kind of made up my own recipes for something similar to use. But I was able to I found this at Sam's Club, and it was a 2-pack, so there's one up in the fridge right now that's open. And then I've got this one down here. It does not have any corn in it. Now we've got sweeteners and oils and vinegars. We've got maple syrup, honey. The kids still, at least one of the kids still prefers this corn syrup type syrup on their pancakes and stuff. Apple cider vinegar, avocado oil, like a light olive oil, and then an extra virgin olive oil. And back behind there is lemon juice, mostly for candy, but I do use it for other stuff. This one is oil that we saved from deep frying. I strained it and put it back in the jug when it cooled to use again. And then there's also some cranberry juice back there in the back. This has a second mini shelf behind it where I've got some homemade pickle chips, some dill spears, jam, sauerkraut, minced garlic, which honestly I don't really need, so I should probably go through this. I should probably take it up with me and put it in the fridge and go through this, because otherwise I'm not going to use it, because I have a lot of homegrown garlic also. Mustard. My youngest child asked for this and then hasn't eaten it. There's actually another one upstairs. I've got hazelnut spread. My kids love that stuff, and they put it on their pancakes and make sandwiches out of it. And I've got some lemonade drink mix, some mayonnaise, Parmesan cheese, honey mustard, barbecue sauce, and A1 sauce. I don't eat any of these. I used to eat these, but these both have corn in them. But that's for my husband and my youngest daughter. They will eat other kinds of mustard. I am a yellow mustard fan. I like yellow mustard. So on the top shelf is kind of some more baking stuff. There's cornstarch, which I don't use anymore. I now use tapioca starch, but I still have it. It can be used for other things, non-cooking related, like crafts and science projects and stuff. But iodized salt, canning salt, black pepper, kosher salt, cream of tartar, vanilla, and then a bunch of spices. It's not all garlic powder. There's several things up there. Cocoa, evaporated milk, and sweetened condensed milk. This is a new thing this year. These are, what are they called? Cinnamon watermelon rind pickles. They sound weird, but they're actually pretty delicious. We successfully grew sugar baby watermelon at the library garden where I'm part of the garden club. We had a little vegetable garden there. And my youngest child had planted a watermelon seed at home and then wanted me to put it in the garden, but I didn't have space for it cultivated yet. So we had an empty spot at the vegetable garden at the library, so we put it in there, and we got 2 watermelons. One of them we sent home with somebody else, and we took one home, and I decided to go ahead and pickle the rind of it because I had heard of this, and it was intriguing, and I wanted to try it. Well, it was so good that we decided to buy more watermelons and make more of it. So there it is. It's like, it's kind of like a candy almost. And we have a little bit of canned fruit. Down here on the bottom shelf, we also have some white vinegar. On the next section of shelves, we have tomato products. This is all tomato products on this shelf. Tomato sauce, tomato paste. I really shouldn't still have this can of crushed tomatoes because I should have used it before I started getting into my home canned tomatoes, but I've kind of totally forgotten about it and ignored it until just this moment when I realized, oh, that's not more tomato sauce. It's still good. It's got till November of this year, so I'm just going to put it down here so I remember to grab that next. But when we canned them, my sister canned most of these for me. These are from my garden from back in Indiana, my last garden there. Most of them, anyway. My sister separated the yellow from the red just for looks, I think. But we've got lots and lots, which is good because my tomatoes did awful this year. I mean, they may have done okay, except the deer ate them all. And then I have 2 pints and 1 quart from this year that I was able to can. And most of those actually came from the library garden. And then I've got pasta sauce. I was hoping to can my own pasta sauce this year, but since my tomatoes didn't do well, I was unable to do that. So I just stocked up at one point over the summer because I knew I wasn't getting tomatoes. Next shelf up starts with some apple products. I've got 2 different kinds of apple butter. There's a sweet apple cider apple butter and then a salted caramel apple butter. They're both really good. And then I've got applesauce. All of these apple products came from apples from our trees, which is really cool and really exciting. We gifted some apple butters for Christmas gifts, and everybody seemed to love them. I love them. And it's just really cool to have, had the apples growing when we really weren't expecting that to happen. We originally thought that they were just going to be crabapple trees, and then we realized that they were edible apples, and one of the trees is definitely a golden delicious. I have no idea what the second tree was. It was more of a red and yellow apple. It was very good, but not nearly as sweet as the golden delicious, but still really good. This is made mostly out of the other apple, the unknown apple, and it's unsweetened applesauce too. Next we have chicken. This is chicken stock. There's a couple jars from the previous time I canned chicken stock, and then the rest of these are from this time. I decided to do a bunch of smaller jars because a lot of recipes I have call for, a half cup or 1 cup or 2 cups, and these are 4 cups. So I always make a double batch when I'm making like a cream of something soup. But it is still nice, like I use these when I make chicken noodle soup and stuff like that. So both sizes will come in handy, and I'll see if I like having so many of them in the pints or not, because this is the first time I've canned chicken stock in pints. And then I still have some canned chicken, which is still canned chicken from last year that you saw. We did use quite a bit of it, but we still need to go through that. It's still good though. It's totally fine. This is 2 jars of some canned beef. You saw in last week's video, I used one of these jars for the beef stew that I made. I've got some Great Northern beans that I bought quite a while ago. They're definitely still good, but they are on the roster to get eaten pretty soon. I used to make beans a whole lot more often than I do now because I always like to make it with cornbread. And I can't eat cornbread anymore, so that kind of makes me sad, and I don't want to make the beans. But I did make it recently, and I didn't miss the cornbread so much because it's been so long, and the kids had the cornbread and they were happy. And we've got tuna. The next shelf is a lot of beans. We've got black beans. This is where the kidney beans should be. Great Northern beans and pinto beans. This is my last jar of pinto beans. So then I can start using that big 5-gallon bucket down there. Now, I ran out of these on purpose. See, I bought like a flat each of these last year. That was obviously overbuying for the black beans and the Great Northern beans, but not the kidney beans. I decided to go ahead and can my own kidney beans because they're the only ones that have corn syrup in them. I didn't realize that at the time. And so I was opening the cans, dumping them in like a spaghetti strainer and rinsing them off really well because, the corn syrup was just on the outside. If there were like any broken up ones, I would pull those out because they might have had corn syrup like penetrate inside the bean. And I do not feel well at all when I eat corn, so that's important. So this year I knew I was running out. I just used the last can of kidney beans in December to make chili. I bought several packages of these kidney beans, and I'm going to can my own without corn syrup. See, these don't have corn syrup in them. It's just black beans, water, salt. And these are prepared Great Northern beans, water, salt, calcium chloride, disodium something. That's a lot more ingredients. I don't know why they need that many ingredients, so I guess these are next on my list after pinto beans to start canning myself. Then we've got green beans. These up in the front are from the store, obviously, and I kind of skipped these for a while and was eating my home canned ones instead. There's like 10 jars back there. I think I canned 15 to 17 jars of these, and these would all be gone except that I bypassed them for Thanksgiving and used my homegrown to share with everybody at Thanksgiving. And we've got some condensed tomato soup and some olives, and that's like, you know, cleaning products and stuff. We added hydrogen peroxide to our bulk list this year. And we already had baking soda that I had in bulk. But now we need the hydrogen peroxide so much. I mean, I always had some on hand, but now I have a lot on hand. It was on sale, so I just bought several bottles. Because that's what you use when your dog gets hit by a skunk. Is hydrogen peroxide, baking soda, and a little bit of dish soap. So it's happened once that they got sprayed, and then another time that they rolled in a skunk that something else had killed. So it's good to have this on hand around here. We got toilet paper, paper towels, Kleenexes. Next is this bigger chest freezer. Got a couple loaves of the bread that the kids like to eat. I still haven't convinced them all to eat the bread that I make, especially my middle child. I've got a package of yeast here, and then this, it says chicken, but it's also yeast. This is what I refill my container in the fridge with. And then I have 3 jars of apple cider, also from our apples. I hand pressed this in a potato ricer. It was a lot of work, and my hand hurt afterwards. And this is not all for one session. It is really good, and I decided to freeze some and save it for the winter instead of drinking it all right away. There's a turkey that my mom bought me last year because they were on sale, and so she decided to buy me a turkey. So I need to get around to making this. I should probably just like cook the whole thing and then can it, is what I'm thinking I might do with it. I have Kielbasa sausage, which is a name brand at Sam's Club. It's similar to, I think, or maybe is the same thing as kielbasa, which is the kind of sausage we like to use for sausage and sauerkraut. And this one does not have corn in it. So next time I go to Sam's Club, I'm going to buy multiple packages. This was from one package that I got. And we really like sausage with sauerkraut and potatoes. And then I've got 1 package of bacon left and some andouille sausage, which also doesn't have corn in it. And I was trying this as a substitute for the kielbasa that we used to eat before I found this stuff. And yeah, it's spicy, which I don't mind. Some of my kids mind and some of them don't, and my husband would cry if he ate these. And then I've got some chicken tenders down there. Then I've got self-rising flour and wheat flour. I would like to get I popped a hole in this. It did not have a hole when I bought it. That happened in this freezer. I was reorganizing earlier today, and I must have done that. So I'm going to be careful with that. I would like to make a wheat bread. I have not successfully made a wheat bread that I enjoyed, so I've been eating white bread, which is weird for me. I used to always eat wheat bread. As you can see, the kids' bread is wheat bread. But over here we've got some pork butt shoulders. Some of them have bones in them and some of them don't. I think I've got 4 of them. They were on sale, so I stocked up on those. And then I still haven't used these chicken feet in a stock. I really need to do that. And let's see, we've got pork chops here. And under the pork chops, I know there are some pork loins. We've got lots of butter. It's a better deal at Sam's Club. We live over an hour away from the Sam's Club, so when I go there, I get extras of all the things that we might want from there. I kind of overdid it stocking up on the cheese. Like, I'd buy a couple extras here and there of the shredded cheese, because last year in the Pantry Challenge, that was one of the things that we struggled with, was cheese. I really like cheese, and we ran out of cheese, and that made me sad. So I overdid it this year. We didn't need this much extra cheese, so there's a lot of extra cheese here. I've also got some corned beef brisket. I've got several of those because they went on a big sale right after St. Patrick's Day. And I thought, hey, it's cheaper than the other meats, so why don't I just buy a few of those and we can have them all year long instead of just, New Year's and St. Patrick's Day. So we did that. I still have several chickens. And I mentioned in the last video that we did order some new meat chickens, so we need to eat these before those new ones get here. More cheese. Got a couple bags of vegetables. I think 3 California blends and 1 broccoli. Got some lunch meat ham and some lunch meat turkey. And I have 3 hams. They were on sale for 79 cents a pound. So I bought those around Christmas time, I think. I really like ham, so that's another thing I thought we should just have that more often. Why not? Finally, down here we have the small freezer. Here we still have some of this oyster soup that was in there last year. The kids don't like it. I like it, but they don't, so we'll have to have this sometime where either when my husband is here, so he'll help me finish it off, or with some other kind of soup. And still have a little bit of pumpkin that we haven't used yet. This is kale from this year's garden, and broccoli leaves and stems from this year's garden. I'm going to use that to make broccoli cheddar soup, I think. This is still some Swiss chard and some kale from previous years. That really needs to get eaten. Got some fancy cheeses that I put in different bags to use for either pizza or Alfredo sauce. This one says for pizza and that one says for Alfredo. So I think because I needed 6.4 ounces for an Alfredo recipe specifically. We've got radish tops there. And over here we have jalapeno poppers. I made some of these last week and it turned out fantastic having these frozen. I wasn't sure how they'd be, but they turned out really well. Underneath here we have ground beef, and I put these in 1 pound portions. I also have some sliced peppers. Both of these are sliced peppers from this year. Most of the bell peppers that I have in the freezer are either from right after the Pantry Challenge last year when I bought a bunch and diced them up to put in. Plus I bought some at a farmer's market, and then we got some from my garden and from the library garden. And so we've got lots of diced peppers, probably too many actually. I probably would have been okay not buying most of the ones I got at the store. Like this, for example, is from the farmer's market. I've got hamburger patties, and below that there's 2 or 3 packages of the tortillas that I made last year. They're 10 per bag that are down there. And I think there's also a chicken pot pie mix that's down there that it's been in here way too long, and I really need to use that up. So I think that's going to be on my list during this pantry challenge, is to make a pot pie. Got frozen chicken stock here. Got some kind of beef roast. A beef bottom round roast. So these ended up being less expensive per pound than the chuck roast. That's what I would usually use to make a pot roast. But these work just as well. I've got, I think, 2 of those. Got some meatballs that I made up. This is the casserole that my son tried to eat instead of eating the one that I cooked. Okay. And then we have watermelon. I told you over by the shelves that we bought more watermelon to make the pickled cinnamon watermelon rind, and that was too much for us to eat all at once, so I put some of it in the freezer. And my youngest likes to make herself smoothies all the time, so these will come in handy for that. And then there's more watermelon in bags, some green peppers, some squash still. I don't know why I still have all that squash. And there's something else down here. There it is. A meatloaf that I made this summer. So we should probably eat that. So I hope you enjoyed the tour through my construction zone pantry. And now here are the videos of the meals I made for dinner this week. Sunday through Wednesday of this week, we actually ate off of leftovers that were in the fridge from before the challenge and the first week. So this first meal is on Thursday. I started out with chopping up an onion. I chose this one because it was starting to sprout. Once an onion starts to sprout, it will start to go bad rather quickly. I add the chopped onion to a pan that has some melted butter in it. Once the onions are mostly clear, I add some chicken stock. And then I add flour to the rest of the chicken stock and shake it up really well to combine it. You could also do this in a container with a whisk. Then you add the flour and chicken stock mixture into the pot and get everything stirred up. And this will simmer with me stirring it occasionally until it has thickened up. This is going to be a cream of chicken soup. Next, I take leftover chicken from the roasted chicken that we had last week, and I chop up what's left of it and add it to this big bowl. I grab a bag of broccoli to steam in the microwave while I add leftover California blend vegetables and leftover rice to this bowl as well. And then a little bit of garlic powder, black pepper, and salt. Once the broccoli has finished cooking, I dump that out on my cutting board to chop it up into smaller pieces so it will have a good texture in our casserole that I'm making. And then I add that to our bowl as well. The soup has thickened up and is ready to be added to our casserole, but I've made a double batch here and don't need all of it. So I have a silicone freezer mold with 1 cup sections, and I go ahead and fill 2 of those up with the soup before adding the rest of it into the bowl. Followed by about 1.5 cups shredded cheese, and I save a little bit that's in this bag to go on the top later. And then get everything mixed together. Once it's all mixed together, I get out 2 casserole dishes because I know my family will not eat all of this in one night. And when I make this dish, I usually double it up like this so that we can have one stick in the freezer for a fast food option another night when I really am not feeling like making dinner. And this is what it all looks like before getting stored away. This one is going to go into the oven at 350 degrees for 20 minutes. And while that is baking, I go ahead and grab out the rest of the onions I had in the cabinet that had started to sprout. I really need to get these preserved in some way so that they do not rot, and so I decided to make sliced onions and put them in a freezer bag for later use. And don't forget to label your bags. After the 20 minutes are up, I add cheese to the top of the casserole and stick it back in for another 10 minutes so that the cheese can get nice and bubbly and melted. And now it is ready for dinner. So I just came in the kitchen to put dinner away since I was letting it cool enough. And I was surprised to find, so much left in this dish. And I'm quizzing the teenagers. We didn't eat together tonight because there was stuff going on. But I'm like, who didn't eat? Because I served up the youngest and I got mine. And I was like, oh, they're going to finish this off today. And they're both like, no, I got a lot. Well, come to find out, the one I was going to put in the freezer, my middle child got food out of that one. Had a good laugh about that. So, I don't know what I'm going to do with that. Maybe I'll stick this last portion in there and then freeze it, and it'll just have an extra cheesy spot when we cook it up. Whenever that is. So, I don't know what lesson to learn from this. Maybe don't put your casserole that's going in the freezer next to the one that's not going in the freezer. At least it's all, cooked ingredients that got mixed together. Friday night, we are going to have hamburgers. So I start out with making buns. This recipe calls for the egg, milk, and water to equal a certain weight at the end. That's why I'm using my scale. And this is also a bread machine recipe. If you watched last year's Pantry Challenge videos, you'll know that I was struggling to make bread. I did finally find a good recipe for white bread that works for me and that I can bake consistently. But my mom also bought me a bread machine, and I've started using that to do all the mixing for me, but I still usually do the second rise and the baking in the oven. I just like how the loaves turn out better in the oven versus in the bread machine pan. Once all the ingredients are in the pan, I put the pan into the machine and get it set for a dough setting, and we will come back to this when it's finished. When the bread machine is finished, I flour my counter and then dump out the dough, remove the paddle, and then I slice the ball of dough into 8 equal pieces and roll those out into balls to put on my parchment paper lined baking sheet. Once those are all rolled out, I smush them down flat. The dough is still a little elastic at this point and is bouncing back. But once they are done rising, they look fantastic. I add avocado oil to the top of each of these and then cover them with a damp flour sack towel, hopefully so they will not stick and they'll stay moist. And then I put them into my oven on the proofing setting. I really like the proof setting on my new oven. It's really a fantastic feature. And these are what the buns look like when it's time to go in the oven. Meanwhile, while I'm waiting for the oven to preheat, I start chopping up potatoes, or slicing up potatoes, I guess, for French fries. We're not actually going to fry these. I'm going to bake them, but I get them sliced up, added to my baking sheet, and then I will toss them with olive oil, salt and pepper, and then lay them out in a single layer and then pop them in the oven with the buns that are already in there. The buns then are ready to come out, and I move them to a cooling rack so they can cool while the rest of dinner bakes. I move them out of the way and cover them with a dry flour sack towel so they can cool and keep their moisture. Next, I prepare another baking sheet with parchment paper, and I have a bag of frozen jalapeno poppers, and I'm going to arrange these on the pan and add those to the oven as well. Now to get the hamburgers cooking. I always salt my pan before I put them in. It's just something my mom always did. I'm not sure why, but that's what I do. And then I get the patties into the pan. I made these patties up when I bought some ground beef that was on sale earlier in the year. I made a whole bunch of these and some other things up. It's a lot of work up front, but it's really convenient on the day you want to have these things. I always like to have sauteed onions with my hamburgers, so I'm slicing up an onion to add to the pan as well. Then I pop the lid on and I check them and flip them when they're about halfway cooked. Now I've got the buns. I'm going to slice them open, and they really did turn out beautiful and they tasted great. This is maybe the third hamburger bun recipe that we tried, and this is by far the best, and it is a keeper. And here's our meal ready to be served, and everything turned out absolutely delicious. Now on to Saturday and the final meal this week. We are having spaghetti and meatballs. I've got a pot of water boiling for the spaghetti, and in a second pan I'm going to add meatballs and cover them with pasta sauce. These meatballs are also one of the things I made up at the same time when I made all of the hamburger patties, and I made a couple meatloaves, one of which is still in the freezer downstairs. Once the pasta water is boiling, I add some salt and then add the spaghetti and cook those until they are finished. The sauce has started to boil for the meatballs at this point, and I give it a stir and then turn it down to a simmer until they are finished. And now it's time to drain that pasta. When everything was ready, my youngest child was too eager to eat to wait for me to get a finished shot before she started getting her food, which spaghetti is one of her favorite meals. And we had just gotten home from ice skating, so I can't blame her for being really hungry and excited about this meal. So those are the meals for this week. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I can't wait to see you in the next video. Bye.